The Los Angeles Clippers have been one of the most talked about teams in the past few days, obviously because they just made a huge splash in trading for James Harden, and rightfully so. He's a huge name, a lot of people are talking about him, and he now provides them with a legit NBA title aspirations. Like, the finals is no longer an imagination, it is now reality, okay? There's a possibility that it happens. And I'm going to be telling you why I think this could end in a total disaster for this Los Angeles Clippers organization, and why I think more bad is probably going to come out of it than good. And there's already been a few red flags, in my opinion, of this is probably going to head south fairly quickly. And if that does sound interesting to you in this video, please watch it all the way through. Hit the like button, the subscribe button if you liked the video, and hit the dislike button if you disliked it. Without further ado, without running on too much, let's get right into this video. So the first reason is going to be a completely just logical reason, and that is the contract situation. Like, there's no getting around it. Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, and Russell Westbrook are all technically on the final year of their contract. Now, I think Paul George and Kawhi, and even Westbrook, have player options to opt into next year, which they will all most likely take for money reasons, especially Russell Westbrook. The problem is, if they do that, then they are all legitimately on their last year of the contract next year, they're all a year older, and you're now paying James Harden $34 million a year for the next 2 years guaranteed on his contract, which means you literally will have $0 basically for the rest of your entire roster. And that is a problem because Kawhi is no longer the Kawhi he used to be. Paul George is no longer the Paul George he used to be. Russell Westbrook is far from the Russell Westbrook we used to know when he was an MVP. And James Harden still thinks he's the guy from the Houston Rockets, despite a lot of evidence that he's not. He's still a great player, but he's no longer the guy from Houston, yet he still wants to be the guy from Houston. And when you have a whole bunch of players who think that they are that good, and they deserve to be that good, and they're getting paid like they're that good, then that's going to make it very hard to fill out a roster of guys. Because one, you have no money, so you're going to be getting the lower level, really old veteran type guys anyway, kind of like what the Lakers do with the bottom half of their roster, and like what the Phoenix Suns kind of do as well, even though they did better in free agency than expected. But now you also have to deal with the fact that probably most people don't want to play with Westbrook. They don't want to play with Harden because Harden still thinks he's that dude. And then also they're aging, and their future, their roster looks very, very bleak, at least in the foreseeable future, assuming something crazy doesn't happen. And you consider their injury issues in the past that I'll be getting to a little bit later as well. And now you're starting to see why these contracts are going to probably be very, very bad in the very, very near distant future in the grand scheme of things. And if they don't win a championship this year, the chances are they're going to be going in with an older, worse version of this roster next year, which makes the chances of winning a finals the next year a lot even slimmer than they are right now. And let's be honest, do we consider them better than teams like Milwaukee, Boston, or the Nuggets right now? I still don't. I think the Boston Celtics have a way better all-around roster and more talent on it as of right now in today's NBA. I think the Denver Nuggets play way more as a team, and the Clippers have no time to play anywhere near as much of a team as a team like the Denver Nuggets. And I think the Milwaukee Bucks have one of the best players, a top 2 player in the entire NBA in Giannis, and Damian Lillard's one of the best point guards. And on top of that, their all-around roster is extremely solid as well. Plus, Chris Middleton's an all-star level offensive player, and they've been together for a few years outside of Damian Lillard, and they know how to play together, and they have chemistry on their side, something that the Clippers have basically none of. I just overall don't think these contracts are going to be healthy. I don't think they're going to make the team any better, and if they don't win it this year, it's only going to get worse. So I just think that could really hurt the chances of this team ever winning the finals or winning at a high level, and the contracts are a huge reason, and they're just factually gonna affect this team. Like, there's no shot that they don't. Like, all those players are most likely gonna opt in. James Harden doesn't even have to because he's just on a contract for the next few years. And it's just going to be very hard financially for this team to succeed at any high level, especially after this season. And that is going off the assumption that the contracts are only super terrible and only have a chance of not being detrimental if they stay healthy. And that is one of the biggest ifs in the entire NBA, because it feels like for how long Kawhi and Paul George have been on this Clippers team, they have almost never played at the same time, especially in the playoffs. Like, it feels like they literally never play together in the playoffs ever. And it's actually true. Like, one year I think they missed it, then another year Kawhi was out the entire time, and another year Paul George was out. Like, it's always one of them being out, and that's always just screwed them when it came to playoff time, when they're trying to beat some of the best teams in the NBA. If one of them are out, they just don't have the talent to do that. And now adding James Harden doesn't really help that, because yes, James Harden played 65 games last year, but he has missed significant time in past seasons as well. And like I said, out of those three, the 65 games James Harden played last year is by far the most any of them played in a very, very long time. As the next one is Paul George, who only played 56 games, and the last time he played 60 games in a season was a 2018 through 19 season when he was still on the Oklahoma City Thunder. And then Kawhi Leonard, even the last time he played 60 plus games in a season was the year 2018 through 19, where he won the championship with the Toronto Raptors. So it has been an extremely, extremely long time since any of their star level players on that roster for Clippers have played 60 plus games. And even like 60 plus is not that impressive. Like, even if you only play 60, you still miss like 22 games in a regular season, which is still a significant chunk of the season. And when you put in top of that the fact that they are now 32, 33, and 32 years old, all three of them respectively, they're only going to be getting injured more often and missing more games more often. And then you combine, like I said earlier, on ginormous contracts, that is not a recipe for success, especially after this season. And there is a very real chance by the time the playoffs come around, Paul George, Kawhi, or James Harden will not be healthy for the entire playoff series, which once again will probably completely ruin any chance they have of winning the NBA Finals this season or any season going forward. And then my last critique of this team is going to be the play style that they're going to go at. Because if you look at it, James Harden has already said that he feels like he's still the system, like he is still the guy. And on this roster, he's legitimately probably the third best player on it. And Terrence Mann, is also a guy that's not going to like losing touches to James Harden. So I think they could clash a little bit in how they play. But if James Harden legitimately is going in there thinking he's the best player on this roster, I could easily see that rubbing Paul George and Kawhi Leonard completely the wrong way. Because Kawhi is by far the best player on this roster. It's not even close. And if Kawhi thinks he's going to be losing touches to James Harden because he wants to think he's back in Houston and live out his heyday because he's going through a midlife crisis in the NBA, I can see easily how that's going to rub people the wrong way. And then Paul George and James Harden, although they don't play similar, but they both like to have the ball in their hand and shoot and score. And I don't see how that's going to happen very efficiently with them. And I just don't see James Harden going what he did in Philadelphia, because he literally just bashed what he did in Philadelphia. And I thought that was a very good version of himself as a playmaker. He was a very talented passer last year who could score you 20 points a game efficiently. Why you wouldn't want to do that again, I don't know. And if he's not willing to do that again, like he already said he wasn't in a conference with the Los Angeles Clippers in his first day there, if he's not willing to be that playmaker passer guy that can give you 20 points and 10 assists any given night, and he's not going to do that, I don't see how this team is going to work out together. And if there's ever a rotation with Terrence Mann and Harden on the floor, that is just a recipe for complete disaster, because there will be no passing in that lineup. And I just don't see it working. And defensively, you have Paul George and Kawhi, which is great. But then what? Like, they have nobody else defensively. They have no real big either on the roster. And they have Zubac, but like, he's okay, I guess. I just don't see in any world where this team wins a finals this year, and then, like I said, their chances of winning a finals after this year fall off a complete cliff so badly after this season due to their contracts, health, and all these other reasons I've already mentioned. I just think overall as a whole, this has a very high percentage chance of blowing up in everyone's face. We saw it with Brooklyn. We saw it with many other teams that tried to do the same formula in the past, and it's never worked. So why should we think it's going to work this time? I don't think it will, and I think it will end up blowing up in people's face. But unfortunately, guys, that's going to be for this video. So comment below. Do you agree with me? Do you think the Los Angeles Clippers are doomed for disaster? Do you think they'll win the finals? Or any of your thoughts in the comment section below. And if you did like the video, any point to the like button and subscribe button mean the absolute word to me. And I hope you have a blessed day. Could I have a blessed day? So you need to have a blessed day. All glory to God. See you in the next video. Goodbye. Boo. Blah, blah.